Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally and today we are continuing down our journey of Crazy Creek. Yes, we have Kevin Bacon and he is our tour guide and we are going to traverse what is the convention. Yes, we are continuing Wally's Convention Crusade. We are here for part 6 now? So that's pretty cool. If you're enjoying this video or if you've enjoyed any of the past videos, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel. With all that being said, let's do this thing.
Brother Leonard Myers, a helper to the writing committee, will now present the next talk of this symposium.
As we continue our consideration of the promises of peace in Isaiah's prophecies,
You ever seen a grown man wear so much blue?
I'd like you to imagine an Israelite living in Babylon. Now, he's just learned that Jews can return to Jerusalem and help to rebuild the temple. So he must decide if he and his family will leave Babylon to make the long trip to his homeland. What might he consider? Well, after 70 years, the land must have changed. Fields would be overgrown with weeds. Wolves, leopards, lions, and bears must freely walk in the fields. Snakes make their home there. So he might ask himself, will my domestic animals be killed by predators?
Lions and tigers and bears.
Oh, Mom!
Now, one thing this guy is forgetting to really think about is that they were there for 70 years, which means if you went there as a child, you're kind of old now. And it's not like you left as a child and you're going back. You don't have any memories. You don't have any longing, I suppose. And it just seems very odd because the people that were in Babylon would have grown up there. That is the life that all that they would have known. So it's kind of crazy. Now, as far as like the importance of, returning to your homeland and all that, I'm sure there were people, but when he's talking about, hey, a man's going to go with his family, he's talking about like a second and third generation essentially, because, again, you're a child, okay, 70 years, most likely because of the average life expectancy back then, those people, most of them weren't alive anymore, so it would be their children going with their children. Anyway, it just seems very odd to me that he's talking about it in this way, because how many of them are going to be like, yeah, let's go back to that barren wasteland?
And did you notice, according to verse 7, the lion would symbolically eat straw, illustrating that lions wouldn't kill the Jews' cattle. Do we see this prophecy being fulfilled in our day? Not with the literal animals, but we do see a spiritual fulfillment.
So he goes and talks about how their path would be fine and no harm would come to them. I don't know how he managed to stretch it out for 5 entire minutes reading one verse, but at the end here, I did find it interesting that he's like, see how it says that the lion will eat straw? Well, that's symbolic, but that is going to also have a literal fulfillment. They get their doctrine so twisted, I doubt they even know like what's symbolic, what's figurative, what's literal, what's typical, what's anti-typical. It's just hilarious to me that they just do, I always call it going through with a green highlighter, a blue highlighter, and a yellow highlighter. And you just basically artificially say, yeah, that's figurative. Yeah, that's prophetic. Yeah, that's going to be happen literal. Oh my Lord, it's so funny. Now, the funnier things are in times when within the context of the same verse or the same, passage, they'll go through and say, well, this part is figurative. This half of it is figurative, but this half is literal. I'm referring to the 144,000 doctrine. Quick PSA from the Watchtower Logic Department. This verse applies to the past in a literal, figurative, prophetic, and spiritual way. This verse also applies to random events in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and to an unspecified time in the future. The moon landing, Lincoln assassination, and JFK are also a hoax. We will be selling tin hats after the program. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter. Now back to our program.
How would you feel during a long journey where you might meet wild animals and criminals along the road? Jehovah assured the returning exiles that they would return in safety and dwell in peace. In the spiritual paradise we enjoy right now, people who were once violent have learned to be humble, loving, and peaceable.
You can't make this stuff up. Part of being not violent and being loving and peaceable is shaving your beard. Why was that shot in there? Yes, I had this big old mustache and there was hair here. Now I'm just going to shave it and still have my hair right here. Like, what's the difference? It's like a few centimeters of a difference. And that is the difference between a violent person and a peaceable one. Watchtower comes up with the kookiest things. Oh, I love it.
Imagine the peace that will reign in God's new world.
Not tonight.
Hey, nice pants.
Why? Why do they all have to wear freaking tan pants? I don't get it. Just wear blue, black, anything. But they're all in tan pants. Oh, they just can't even help themselves, can they? I wonder if there's like some sort of goofy superstition that they've come up with. Like, okay, guys, these are the pants. You know, everyone has to wear the same pants. Shirts, sweaters, we'll allow a little bit of room, but not the pants. Okay? I think this is Toni Morris just ensuring that for the rest of eternity that no one will have tight pants because they'll all be manufactured exactly the same.
Where we can wander this beautiful globe. Explore every corner. And admire the handiwork of the true God. With no fear. They will do no harm nor cause any ruin in all my holy mountain, says Jehovah.
So here's a good one. Why do they need life jackets in the paradise? Or is this just an oversight, or could they not get the shot they were looking for without the requisite life jackets? But I just did think it was a little bit funny that they're sitting there. Like, where are they getting the foam that's going to make these flotation devices? Where are they getting the nylon? I think DuPont is still going to be up and running and quite profitable by what it seems, because in order to explore every corner of the ocean, we're going to need submersibles. There's going to be a lot of work that we need to do. So shout outs to DuPont, shout outs to Watchtower. I'm sure they're heavily invested in that company anyway. So, it all comes right back home, spanking on the bottom, and mail it to your grandmother.
As the video showed, people who were once violent have learned to be humble, loving, and peaceable. And how did you feel when you saw scenes in the video of humans so close to wild animals? Jehovah's promise of peace among humans and peace between humans and animals is thrilling.
It's interesting how he says, how did you feel when you saw the wild animals? Not, what did you think about all this malarkey? Don't think about it, just feel. You must see yourself in paradise and feel yourself in paradise. Don't think about how objectively absurd it is to think that snakes are going to eat grass. Because if you really go down that rabbit hole, you're not going to like what you find. So just feel your way through things.
Think how you'll feel when you're not afraid of wild animals, and the animals aren't afraid of you. May all of us take delight in the peaceful promise of the wolf and the lamb feeding together. Brother James Mance, a helper to the writing committee, will now present the next talk of this symposium.
Well, if we had to make a convention tier list, hey, that's another good idea. I think we would have to put this symposium on the very bottom. I know we got a bit of a laugh and a little bit of a chuckle out of their renditions of Paradise, so I'm glad that we watched it. But at the same time, man, they could have really spiced this up or just given us a little bit more of something interesting instead of this just hackneyed way of talking and these points that have gone over and over again and these silly ideas of think how you'll feel. Just think about how you'll feel. Don't think about whether or not it's true. Anyway, let's see what Mr. Mance has for us.
Why can we be confident that Jehovah is going to keep his promise to bring an end to all sickness? Isaiah recorded this promise 125 years before the Babylonian army destroyed Jerusalem.
No.
It was fulfilled after Jehovah freed the Israelites from Babylonian captivity in 537 BCE and restored them to their homeland in Israel.
I don't think so.
But you may ask, were the blind, deaf, lame, and speechless really healed at that time?
So I did cut out a chunk of when he's reading the scripture because it's just painful to listen to them read scriptures. But essentially it's a scripture, and I think it's Isaiah 65, that says these people will be healed of various ailments that they have. And I don't know why they do this, where they set up a question that no one's asking. Now you might be asking yourself, how did this really happen? Like, no, I wasn't wondering that at all. Not a single Jehovah's Witness in the audience was like, whoa, are they about to drop some new light on us? It's like, no one's asking this question, so why are you talking in such a demeaning way as if people don't have a functioning brain? It's very weird and odd, but anyway, let's carry on.
To answer, we need to apply a basic principle. Jehovah restores what was lost. During the 70 years of exile, Jehovah did not punish the Israelites by striking them with physical blindness, deafness, lameness, and loss of speech. Therefore, their restoration would not require the healing of their physical disabilities.
Well, I think we all know where he's going with this. Oh, it was spiritual healing that they needed because that was their real element. See, it was all symbolic. I find this so annoying because you can just pick any spot in the Bible and just start making shit up. It's really so stupid. You know what? Actually, let's do it. I got the old Bible here. Let's just pick a scripture and then we'll make our own little prophetic fulfillment right here on the spot. Okay, let's just go. We'll open up. Let's just find a scripture that says something like, I, Jehovah of armies, or something. Here we are. Zechariah. Bang. Here we go. It has to happen there. Zechariah 7. This is what Jehovah of armies has said. If you're looking for like a prophetic statement, just always look for the expression, this is what Jehovah of armies has said. Pro tip. Here I am saving my people from the land of the sunrise. So we need something in the east. And from the land of the setting of the sun. Something from the west. And I shall certainly bring them in, and they must reside in the midst of Jerusalem, and they must become my people, and I myself shall become their God in trueness and in righteousness. Okay, so we need a country that has east and west. Okay, let's go with Jordan. This scripture actually applies to the country of Jordan. See, this was specifically talking about how they would have a difficult time gaining their independence from the Turkish and Ottoman Empire. Then eventually, in the 1920s, there was the Conference of San Remo? Whatever the conference was in Italy, where they started divvying things up and figuring out what to do with those fallen empires. They gave part of it to France and part of it to Great Britain. And then after World War II, that's when they gained full independence. Well, it wasn't full independence. It was like this Trans-Jordan sort of thing that happened. Anyway, I don't want to bore you guys with a bunch of historical shenanigans, but this prophecy was fulfilled in both the minor fulfillment was in World War I, and the major fulfillment was in World War II. Woo! Baby, we did it! You can just take any scripture in the Bible, and in 30 seconds, he can just come up with something that sounds about as intelligent as they come up with. You know, maybe I'm doing myself a disservice. That probably sounded more intelligent and made more sense than anything that's come out of this guy's face. Oh, Lord. But it's just so easy. It is very simple and easy to take something and say, well, when it talks about the sunrise, it meant a kingdom to the east. And when it talked about the sunset, a kingdom to the west. And then they get to be in the midst of Jerusalem. So it doesn't have to be in Jerusalem. It's Jordan. So it's in the midst of Jerusalem. It's so stupid, all of this. Anyway, I just thought that would be kind of a fun experiment. I don't know why, but it was off the cuff, and hopefully you guys had a good time. And if you did, don't forget to drop a like on this video, comment down below that you thought that was funny, and let's move on. Oh boy, I'm a shill now. I've become a shill.
However, these afflictions are a good description of the self-inflicted spiritual sickness that had caused the nation to fall into apostasy and lose Jehovah's favor. Jehovah saw their repentant attitude and their desire to restore true worship in Jerusalem.
Again, you're talking about the children and the grandchildren. Are those the ones that were repentant? Or were a group of people that had nothing to do with the actual sin, were those the ones that were paying for the sin? So all of the old heads that were in Jerusalem and got them into this apostasy that led them to be condemned to going to Babylon for 70 years, they aren't the ones that are really paying the price, because they were older and they probably died off pretty quick. It would be the next generation, and the next generation after that are the ones that are suffering. And also, they knew exactly how long it would be. So this idea of, okay, they were repentant, so now they can go back. When he earlier mentioned that, I think he mentioned earlier that it was prophesied 100 years before that they would be in Babylon for 70 years. So are they really repentant, or are they just like, well, our time's almost up. I guess we get to go back now. It's just all of these holes in his argument are just so glaring. It's really weird. Anyway, sorry if I'm talking weird. I'm eating soup.
Soup, super tasty soup, super spicy carrot and coriander, chili chowder, crouton.
No resident will say, I am sick. Isaiah chapter 33, verse 24 says, and no resident will say, I am sick.
I just wanted to put this in here because a few people had commented on some of the other videos to play longer sections of these talks. And I know most people are like, thank God you cut most of it out. But I just wanted to show you an example. If you did want to listen to this whole thing, this is the format. I'm going to read you a scripture that you've heard 1,000,000 times and have memorized. And then I'm going to summarize it before I read the scripture, and then I'm going to read the scripture, and then I'm going to summarize it again after I read the scripture. So I thought this was just this little 12-second clip was a perfect example of him. I cut out the prequel to the actual verse, but I left in the last part because he's like, where this verse says, no one will say I am sick, and then no one will say I'm sick. And then after the end, he'll be like, and no one will say I'm sick. So for anyone that is mad that I don't leave as much in each clip, just go watch the whole thing, because this is what you'd be treated to.
As you watch the following video, think about the spiritual blessings we enjoy now, and imagine what our lives will be like in the future when all our physical ailments will be healed.
Clear instruction from Jehovah draws us close to him and maintains spiritual health. While false teachings hold many in the grip of spiritual darkness, Jehovah offers true freedom.
Wait, hold the press here. He's using the old Bible Teach book, and that has old light in it. That's apostate material. We don't read that anymore. What are you doing, bro? That is old light. It's got false doctrines in there, and we don't want to be like those other churches sticking with our false doctrines. By golly, we need to update this thing.
The spiritual health we enjoy now reminds us that perfect physical and mental health await us in paradise. Imagine waking every day feeling clean, healthy, happy, and full of the joy of life. Jehovah promises, no resident will say, I am sick.
This makes no sense to me because according to Jehovah's Witnesses, God created everything, and that would include diseases. Well, they won't say that he created the diseases. It's all part of sin. So then it would have started with the first sin. So after Adam and Eve ate the fruit, then God snapped his fingers and made every disease that's ever existed in the entirety of human history all at once, I suppose, or maybe he sprinkles them in as time goes along. But why did God decide to do that? Wasn't death good enough for us humans? Wasn't that enough punishment? Okay, the wages sin pays is death. Okay, cool. We're going to die, and then we eventually get resurrected to heaven, or we live on the paradise earth. Cool. Why do we need to also get sick? Why do we also some people need to be born with certain ailments? Well, he created the problem, and then he's offering you the solution. He's like a pharmaceutical company that creates a disease, lets it out into the population, and then hands them the cure and says, thanks, idiots. It's really odd. And I've never really entirely thought about it like that until this exact moment, so maybe my ideas aren't that well fleshed out now. But I just find it odd when they're talking about, oh, now we're not going to have any more sickness. Well, why was sickness here in the first place? Because God had to snap his fingers, or he created it at the very beginning, which would mean he planned on people getting sick and dying anyway. It's all just makes no sense whatsoever.
How wonderful and impressive to realize that Jehovah promises to raise people from the dead and to end death permanently.
See, Garrett Loesch gets it. He has his badge on the opposite side of his pocket square, or his handkerchief. And it just makes a little bit more sense to me, because when you have it, and it's all mishmashed, and it just looks weird. So at least he gets it. I think that's the only nice thing I've ever said to Garrett Loesch, ever.
But how do we know that Jehovah can resurrect the dead? Because he already brought his people back to life figuratively in the past.
How can we know that God will resurrect the dead? Well, he did so figuratively. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. You can be 100% certain in God's ability to do something because he hypothetically, not even hypothetically, he figuratively did it before. Hey, I can build a house. Oh yeah, what are your qualifications? I dreamed about it. Excuse me?
In 1919, Jehovah freed his modern-day people from Babylon the Great, the world empire of false religion, revitalizing them for renewed activity.
Oh, how I wished he was going to actually go into 1919 and try and explain it. I was really sitting on the edge of my seat, not because I had to go take a poo, but because I was so excited for him to actually whip out a chart and really get down and dirty and explain how they come up with this 1919 when false religion no longer had a control over God's people. But unfortunately, we just get a wet fart blanket statement and he's going to move right along.
God's people were tested and refined during the years following the establishment of God's kingdom in the heavens in 1914. Then, in 1919, Jesus appointed the faithful and discreet slave over God's cleansed people to give them spiritual food at the proper time.
Garrett, just a quick question. Which version of the faithful and discreet slave did he appoint at this time? Because I know it's kind of confusing with the whole new light thing and things always changing and shifting around. But just which version of the faithful and discreet slave was appointed then? Thank you very much. You can just send it to my email.
As you watch the following video, think about what Jehovah has already done to show his love for us and what he will do for us in the future.
Jehovah fulfilled his word to the exiles. He restored that ruined nation, as if bringing it back to life. In 1919, Jehovah did something similar. He released his modern-day people from spiritual captivity.
Jehovah released them from spiritual captivity and promised them that the end would come in 1925. Oh, that didn't come true. So did Jehovah really release them from spiritual captivity, or are they just making stuff up?
And energize them to preach. Just as Jehovah raised his people from figurative death, so will he reverse the effects of literal death. Indeed, God will swallow up death forever. Imagine living longer than any tree.
Now this is the point in the convention where everyone is going to be crying. Yes, they try and do these emotionally charged segments so that way anyone that has lost someone, which most people have, that they dearly cared about, to death, then they're going to be holding this carrot out in front of them. Don't you want to see them again? And when they have these pictures, it's no doubt going to bring back those memories that they have of that person and the joy they would feel if they were able to see and talk to them once again. It's not a healthy way to actually deal with loss. This is one of the worst ways you can deal with loss, is to just trick yourself into thinking, well, if I follow a group of men that live in New York City, then I get to see my loved one again. And it really makes me upset and a little bit angry, because the way that they're just lying to people like this, and the way that they're just holding this hope out of something that they have no idea, and yet they speak about it with absolute certainty. It's just really disturbing to me that this level of propaganda even exists on planet Earth today. And because I have a personal relationship with it, because I have friends and family that they're drinking all of this in, it just really makes me sad and upset that, you know, they're going to be sitting there crying and, you know, just like, oh my goodness, how wonderful it will be. And yet I'm alive. I'm here right now. And yet they won't talk to me. So if someone, you're just so desperate to get back someone that you really care about, and you'll do anything to get them back. You'll follow 8 guys in New York through all of these ridiculous, silly promises. just to get someone back that you care about. Yet I'm right here, and you claim to care about me, and you won't talk to me. It's not it.
Because death will be no more.
Thus ends the Paradise Palooza. Hey, that's pretty good. I guess we'll call it the Paradise Palooza. It's like a little tiny adventure within Wally's Convention Crusade. So I actually find it really interesting whenever they go all in. I think we saw just what the governing body pictures in their mind, and they brought it to like a real scenario, and they fully think that we're going to be shopping at IKEA and able to go to Home Depot and get the latest and greatest. I don't really exactly understand where they're going with this, but it's a fantasy anyway, so I guess we'll just let them have it.
Why is it important for us to do so? Because the threat of death is a powerful weapon. Those under Satan's control use it to force people to betray their friends or to give up their convictions.
And you, sir, being the longest tenured governing body member, would know all about what it takes for people to betray their friends and their convictions. You would know all about using a powerful weapon, a powerful threat to keep people in line, wouldn't you? And this is the threat that you hold over people. So you dangle the carrot in front of them, and you hold the sword of Damocles above them. Shame on you. This concludes part 6 of Wally's Convention Crusade. I hope you're enjoying the series, and it will continue on tomorrow. I will see you at 6 a.m. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.